Good morning, everyone. I'm Tabitha with Tabs on Tap. I'm having some technical difficulties this morning, so I am definitely counting on you all in the comment section to let me know what is going on. On my end, I really am not sure. I everything was fine. I thought everything was fine yesterday technically. And then this morning I went about my normal business. I was up and ready to push the button at 7:05 a.m. And when I opened up my laptop, it said it had a 1% battery, which is strange because it had been charging for hours. The time was off. It was like an hour difference, and everything was moving really slow. And it's still doing that. There's a huge delay on my end. So that's why I said, if anything's going on, let me know. It might take me a couple minutes to see it. My sound is going in and out, like what I hear, and I'm not even sure you guys hear me, but I hope you can because we have a lot going on today. So I don't know. I haven't had any technical difficulties like this in quite some time, and even my lighting, it's really bright in here, but it looks really dark on my screen. I don't know what you guys see. My camera's all messed up. I look weird. Everything is a mess. Like right now, I can't even hear anything. So I don't know what's happening. But either way, good morning. You guys say you hear me fine. Maybe you see me fine. I don't know. Uh, I am at least seeing your comments, but my camera's all messed up. I look like I've had a stroke. No offense to people who've had a stroke, but but there's something definitely not right. But that's okay. Maybe it's just what I see. Maybe it's not what you guys see. On my screen, my face is all messed up. Maybe it always looks that way, and I just didn't know. But either way, we have Colonel Joe Adams joining us this morning at 8 a.m. Can't wait to talk to Colonel Joe Adams. I've missed Colonel Joe Adams, of course, from the Washington Guard. He's such a great, valuable resource of information. Hopefully, everything technical will work out with him. And thank you, Anton Zach. Hope you're doing good out there in the Sykeston area. Yeah, I know it is dark, and thank you. I'm glad it's loud and clear because on my end everything is messed up. If you guys could see what I see, I'll probably have to take a picture of it and show you. One of my eyes is like really dark, and my mouth is all messed up. And what's even stranger about it is that a few minutes ago, there was like this white fog, like right here. It was the strangest thing, and I don't know what's going on. Maybe my room or my laptop is haunted. I really have no idea, but there is something very strange going on in the studio today. We'll figure it out. Kevin, your Trump shine is showing up backwards. Yeah, no, on my screen it's not, and I don't know why it's doing that. I think there's just something super jacked up today. So I don't know what it is. My only goal is hopefully get through the show, get Colonel Joe Adams on. Hopefully we can hear him loud and clear and see him, and hopefully he will look more normal than me. Or you guys might see me normal, but if you could see what I see, I'm going to have to take a picture in a few minutes. To show you what I see because my stuff's all messed up. I'm just going to have to not look at it because if I look, it's going to freak me out. Good morning, Allison, Kevin. Good morning. I'm so glad to see you on here so early. Good morning. Anyway, so Colonel Joe Adams is going to join us a little bit. Things are just strange on my end. Maybe I got hacked. I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me as much stuff as we talk about. I could have gotten hacked. I don't use this laptop for anything but this show. I have like my little setup here and I don't mess with it. And everything was fine yesterday. I have no idea what's going on today. Or if you guys see what I'm seeing where it looks like I have a black eye. Good morning, Eddie. And so some of the things I want to talk about today outside of talking to Colonel Joe Adams is, what is Biden? What do Biden and Harris really think about us? I think we all know, don't we? I think we all know. And it's the difference between us and them. I mean, of course, we don't think highly of Biden or Harris. And we wish that Democrats would wake up, right? We wish they would wake up. We wish they would understand what's going on. I think most of us see them as brainwashed. Some of them may be mentally ill, a lot of other different things, but I don't think that we hate Democrats, the people in our own community. I think we just accept that they watch the wrong news and what they're watching just isn't true. And of course, they're brainwashed, and that's media manipulation, it's propaganda. And that's what countries do. It's not just here, it's in many different countries around the world. But I don't think we want harm to come to them. I really don't. I think there might be some people who do. I don't think most of us do, but I absolutely do think Biden and Harris would love for harm to come with us. Back when I was on Cancel This one time, I had an entire segment in where I read all of the different statements. As a matter of fact, this was back in 2020 in the last election. All of the different statements by various Democrats, from Maxine Waters to various governors and different folks, and they talked about cleansing the world of us. They talked about putting us in front of a firing squad. I think we know where they stand. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. I want to talk about that Pentagon directive. We keep hearing about this new Pentagon directive. It's 5240.01. And it talks about the DOD and what type of force they can use against the population. So I want to get into that in a little more detail. I looked through it extensively. There was really only one part that stood out to me. So I'm going to get to that. I want to talk about the new film. It's called Am I a Racist by Matt Walsh. I know you guys you may have seen the movie. You've probably at least seen the advertisements. It is absolutely hilarious. If you have not seen it yet, please, please, please go out and check it out. So we're going to talk about that. It's on Daily Wire. Mary, good morning, Karen. Mary, according to Biden, us Trump supporters are garbage. You better believe that, Mary. I'm going to play that clip for you here in a few moments. I talk a lot about voting. We're going to talk about that again. We're going to talk about voting because voting right now should be on our minds every single day. Vote, vote, vote. Get out and vote early. I'm not going to get into any objectives here, but let's just say, what if the majority of registered Republicans vote early? What if that happens? What if we all vote early? Well, then what? I mean, maybe can we possibly win it before November 4th? I think that's possible. This is not something that's been talked to me while I was out canvassing. Nobody mentioned this to me. This is just my own thinking. That if we vote early, if we all get out, we all vote early, maybe these battleground states that are so important to us, maybe we'll win these states before November 4th, before they have the possibility to cheat, because I really do think, and that's how we won back in 2016, is they didn't cheat hard enough. They didn't expect us to get out and vote in the numbers that we did. Because after Obama, I mean, we'd all had enough, right? And we all got out, we all cast our vote. We need to do that this time too. And yes, there is going to definitely be a huge red wave on election day, no question about it. But man, if you want a red wave, get that wave in there before election day. Because if we get the majority of registered Republicans, or not even just registered Republicans, trust me, there's a lot of Democrats who have and do vote for Trump. Whether they tell you that or not, they do. I promise you that. I can't get into those details, but I promise you they do. And so therefore, if we all get out, we all cast that vote, man, maybe we have nothing to worry about. Because if we get our votes in early and we can show that the majority of votes for Trump have already enough to win these ground states, how can later? I mean, there'll be no overnight ballots added on November 4th, right? And I want to remind you guys all, do not forget this. Or make sure you are ink pens please do that. Don't send to anybody who hands you a Sharpie. And I know there's training that will tell you that, hey, you can use a Sharpie. Sharpie's fine. You go to some polling locations and they have Sharpies. Please don't use a Sharpie. Just do not do that. Take your own pen with you. Take extra pens. Watch your vote. Watch your ballot being entered into the machine and make sure that your vote counts for the person you plan to vote for. Please be sure to do that. But more importantly, I think part of the other reason to vote early, and Mary, was it you? Someone on here said, oh, here you go, Mary. Go vote. You could be ill on election day. You might be ill on election day. You know what? There might be a lot of things that happen between now and election day that could keep you from voting. And the other thing I want to remind you of is that on election day, you're not going to know who has won on November 4th. Yes, it's possible if we can do it without Arizona and a couple of these other battleground states, or if we can win them early, then yes, we will know. But if we can't win these battleground states early, or if we have to wait on Arizona and a couple of other states, it could be the end of November before we know who won, because Arizona has already said, I played that clip for you guys on Monday. Arizona has already said it's going to be at least 10 to 13 days for them to count their votes. Think about that. 10 to 13 days, maybe longer. So we may not know anything that day unless we get it in the early vote. If we get it in the early vote, you know what? It's a done deal. Because guess what? If we already have enough votes for these states that matter the most in the early voting, then they can't just magically add on any number of ballots at the end. I want you to think about that. But more importantly, I want you to think about what can happen between now and election day. If you plan on waiting for election day, what could happen? I want you to listen to a little video clip from retired General Mike Flynn. Now remember that Flynn used to be the national security advisor. This guy knows a thing or two, right? So please listen to this video and then think about this. Now, this was from a couple days ago because he talks about it being 10 days to election. So we're a little bit closer than that. So please, listen to this video. Hopefully you can hear it with all my crazy technical issues today. And let's talk about this. Maybe.
Right? Don't wait till the election day because
my system, it will pull up.
There's
my
just too much that can happen.
Really slow today.
Like a cyber event.
Everything
right?
I do is like delayed.
We are going to face between now.
Come on,
we have 10 days
let's talk.
Between now and the election. I think we're going to see some other sort of, I wouldn't call them black swans, but other events that are going to
see what I mean. Everything is just
people are going to go,
running
what the hell?
slow.
And you're going to hear
a lot
of disinformation, a lot of false information about, well, there's election fraud going on here. There's election fraud going on there.
And Kevin, how do you know early voting results? Early voting results can be seen. As a matter of fact, just about every news organization is posting
things that are provable, not just some social media post that says they're cheating in this county, And there's
all right. Well, maybe we're not going to have
that they just found on the back of a truck,
I don't
Harris. I mean,
don't know what is happening with my MacBook.
Facts.
I don't know. I'm just hoping I can get Colonel Joe on. Colonel Joe, if you're listening, we're going to get you on before I can't get you on. My system is going down fast. So sorry, guys. I hope you bear with me for a few minutes. I don't know what's happening with my system. I don't. Everything looks fine. It's just slow and delayed. And Colonel Joe Adams, I know he's there. Hopefully he'll be joining us here in just a second. So I'm really sorry, guys. I don't know what's happening. I really have no idea, but I don't think my system's going to last too much longer. See your chat right now, myself or anything else. It's going to be one of those days. I think maybe I don't see how that's possible. All right. Well, I'm back to at least seeing and I'm going to see if I can see your comments. All right. Sorry about that, guys. It's just not going to happen. Thankfully, I have time today to look at this crazy top and see if I can figure out what's going on. I cannot see comments right now. I really don't know. Yesterday, everything was fine. I went to turn it on this morning and then it showed I had 1% battery after I've been charging. The time for some reason is not right, and everything is slow and strange. So I don't know what's going on, but I am sad about that. So I'm not even going to try to play any of these clips because I don't think they're going to play. And hopefully you can't still hear Mike Flynn in the background because it's like the little clip off to the side is playing. So I apologize. It's a huge distraction. And again, I cannot see your comments. Oh my goodness, what a day. I don't need a day like this today. Yesterday was a pretty calm day. And then all of a sudden, everything, well, I take back. Um, yeah, something is definitely going wrong. I don't know what it is. You guys could hear him and it was showing up just fine. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Did we have a solar storm? I'm sorry. It's just maybe like I said, I think it's just on my end because everything on my laptop looks really strange. So we will do that tomorrow. I think you guys get the gist. My goal is to get Colonel Joe Adams on. We'll talk to him. Hopefully you guys can hear him. If you can't, just say something in the comments if for some reason something is not going right. And I'm going to try to get him on and get him talking to us before my system goes down and crashes completely because I think that's what's happening. But primarily what's going on is that make sure you go out and vote. We'll cover all this stuff tomorrow. I'll get it fixed by tomorrow. If not, I'll use my other laptop. But yesterday, by the way, was not a great day for me. You know how sometimes your planets are just aligned in a way they shouldn't be. I locked myself out of my car with the car running. I'm not sure if you guys are still here. I think I think you are. I don't know what's going on here. Let's see here if we can get this figured out. I apologize. I don't know what's happening. My computer completely crashed. If you guys can still see me, just let me know. Oh, am I back? You're still here? That's crazy. I don't know what happened. My computer completely crashed. So what I just did is I just turned on my cell phone and I'm going to bring Joe Adams on with us. He's still hanging out there. I apologize. And I apologize. I'm like leaning over in a really weird spot right now. But I'm glad you can see. Oh, you can't hear me? Let's see here if I can fix that. You guys are the best for just hanging in there with me because I don't really know what's happening. So some people can say you can see and hear, and some said you don't have sound, but I'm here. Hopefully you can hear me. I'm going to try to bring Colonel Joe Adams in. It's not the best situation, but I think I can get him in, and I will do my best. And I appreciate you guys hanging in there with me. It'll take me a couple seconds, but I will get it worked out. And let's see here. All right, Joe, I see you. There you are. How are you doing, Colonel Joe Adams? Can you hear me
I
okay?
look good. I look better than you.
You always look better than me. Uh, well, Colonel Joe Adams of the Washington Guard, I'm so happy to see you. And I am so sorry I'm having these technical issues. I turned my laptop off, it completely crashed. I'm using my cell phone. So, but you know what? Because it's so important for people to hear you today, that I want to make sure we have this opportunity. So, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And first of all, I missed you. I was on the road for 42 days and didn't get a lot of shows in, but I'm so happy to have you back. And I know everyone else probably missed you as well. And I just want to start out, first of all, saying hello and what's going on with the Washington Guard right now.
Yeah, well, actually, all the problems in this country is actually strengthening the Washington Guard because we're preparing for the worst. Uh, I'm involved in that think tank called Phoenix 13. And we're down to now for our post-election ideas that everybody should be planning for the worst and hope for the best. But hope for the best is probably just about has ran its course, and people need to get ready for what's going to happen after the elections. And it's either a slow death or a fast death. And that's where we're at with our 36. We've kept 36 ideas, scenarios for after the elections. So the Washington Guard's ready. We're prepared. Local law enforcement is aware of what's going on. And so we're just doing what we've been doing for the last 3 years, just getting ready for the worst. Hey, how many miles did you log on your trip?
Oh my gosh, I was just thinking about that. On my Jeep, I had 15,000 miles in 42 days.
Wow, that's very
Isn't that
impressive.
crazy?
And everybody appreciates your work too. I haven't heard back from the McCloskeys because they're still on the road with Trump, so I don't know where they're at right now. They're not back in St. Louis yet. So, anyway, the elections. I love. I got a comment on that thing that happened with Joe Biden calling me and you garbage. You know, this guy has turned into he's an entertainer. Now the guy, somebody had to be thinking. He has handlers like, how did he get out? How how did and who took your eyes off of him, and where did he get a laptop to do this? I mean, he's doing nobody any favors. This crazy guy, don't forget, it still has the nuclear codes, and he's crazy. He's like the old grandfather you just kind of feel sorry for, but he's actually turned into an entertainer. I love it. Hey, but talking about like Biden, here's what you people need to do. You need to stop watching the news. There's
That's
no
right.
reason why. If you watch the news, subliminally you're catching a few of those things and locking it in your subconscious. Don't waste your time. Why would you sit there and watch the news when it's nothing but propaganda? So just stay
It
away from it.
is.
I'm a
It, yeah.
news junkie, and I myself have stopped watching the news. I really have. There's no sense in watching the news. It means nothing. It plays into their game. So just turn off the TV and watch Andy Griffith or Green Acres. But that's real reality TV. And just stay away from the news.
Little House on the Prairie. Hey, Joe, let's backtrack for a second. I'm going to play that clip of Joe Biden really quick for reference. I think I can do that now just so everyone knows exactly what you were talking about because he almost says that he's from Puerto Rico and then he catches himself at the last second. But yeah, this is what he thinks of us
Or Puerto
Americans. It's
Rico,
really
where I'm
sad.
in my home state of Delaware. They're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization is seen as unconscionable, and it's un-American.
Isn't that just awful?
How did he?
That's how he feels about us.
Who took their eyes off of him? How did he get out? The guy's he's a disaster. Hey, did you guys before I came on, were you talking about the DOD thing in the Pentagon?
I
With
was
the
talking about that.
what
Yes,
what
I was
what
talking about that.
what did you talk about when you? Because I've
Well,
got some information. I got some information about that. So
yeah, that would be the Pentagon directive. It's 5240.01.
oh yeah,
And the reason why I brought that up is because, obviously we hear a lot of talk about it. Of course, all the fact checkers are working hard right now trying to tell us that we're wrong. But basically, it gives the Secretary of Defense the right to bring the military in the event of several different things, some of them more obvious, but also in the event of civil unrest. And it absolutely does give them the power to use lethal force against protesters.
well, that was written in 2015 during Obama.
Well, there's a new one. There have been
No,
several of them written, but they
no,
have recently made some changes.
no. That was written in 2015 because it was leaked to me verbatim, word for word. Obama was behind that.
Well, he could be. He could be. When I researched it yesterday, I saw several different versions of this exact same directive, and it could be that they just re-released it recently, or it could have been that they written it then and then now see the use to use it.
Well, that's exactly what happened. They wrote
Yeah.
it then because what you people don't understand or know. Have you heard of Task Force 46?
No,
Does that ring a bell? It shouldn't ring a
not for
bell.
me.
Nah. So what they did, government agent approached me back in 2015 about a thing called Task Force 46. Now, Task Force 46 was nothing more than an exercise in St. Louis to slip in covertly military personnel without being detected and staging them around the city in case of civil unrest where they could rise up, uniform up, and go out and stop it. And so this uh, thing that was written by Obama in 2015 covers that. And also they're using when they have these big groups come together with the National Guard about preparation for problems with in case there's an earthquake or some kind of other natural disaster. That's nothing more than a mask to let them work in the community and on this Task Force 46. And so if they did it in St. Louis, they're doing it in all major cities. And it's been going on behind your back. You didn't even see it because they even asked me, would I go as far as letting them use some of my commercial property to house troops? And I said, absolutely not. I want to have nothing to do with you people. So twice they tried to recruit me for Task Force 46. I saw the document that verbatim in 2015. So all this goes back to the Obama administration. I mean, they've been planning this for a long time. Now, if you read between the lines on that paper, that order about being able to fire on U.S. citizens, it also hints at if local law enforcement intervene and support the people involved in civil unrest, which I mean the people that's pissed off about the election, whatever, that their military will be authorized to shoot law enforcement.
Right. I did read that. That is correct. And because Joe, you know why they put that in there. I know you already know. I want to make sure other people understand, and I think most people listening to this show do
One of the reasons,
understand, is
reason
that
they
law
put that in there,
enforcement,
one of the
they
reasons
I
they
think
put,
what's
oh, go
that,
ahead.
Joe? I say most law enforcement, they're going to be on the side of the people. They are us, we are them. And I think that people like Obama, Harris, Biden, they all know that if we come into it, some type of revolution or some type of civil war, the majority of our military members, the majority of our police officers are going to stand with us, not against us.
Well, in Franklin County is an example exactly what they're talking about because the Washington Guard is the only militia in the country that not only is in the Chamber of Commerce, but they're actually a part of the Sheriff's Department emergency response unit in case of civil unrest, natural disasters, floods, tornadoes, anything. So we're the only people in the country that's doing that. Don Jr., uh, Donald Trump Jr. said we need 1,000 more Washington Guard across the country. In fact, they asked me to take the show on the road to go to other communities and try and get them organized, but we're too busy here in Franklin County. I can't do that. They repeatedly asked me to go to different places and set up, and and then other groups call me, and I said, "What's your secret, Colonel? Why are you people so successful when we have a hard time even getting volunteers to come in and help us with that kind of project?" I said, "Well, it all goes back to your leadership. You need to start at the top, not at the bottom. You just need to get better leadership." And so it's worked out real well here in Franklin County, and we're prepared. We're prepared.
You have to be prepared. Joe, I have a question for you from a listener. And one of that question is do you feel that local law enforcement, or in this case, even military, will they comply? Will they shoot their fellow Americans?
That's a good question. The problem is there's a lot of people in the military now that have no loyalty to the United States because they're working on their citizenship. They come from El Salvador, Guatemala, Mexico, and if they have a good 1 year, then they push to the front line for citizenship. Now, those people really don't have an allegiance towards the United States. They're just here to exploit what we've built in the American dream and turning it into Central America. So there's a mixed crowd and a very large percentage, even Puerto Ricans in the U.S. military, and I know that because they're in the Marine Corps. I know the Marines will not fire on U.S. citizens. Period. I'm still, I was a Marine. I'm still a Marine, and I have close contacts with the Marine Corps. I'm not worried about the Marines. I can't speak for the other units, Army, Air Force, Navy. I can't speak for them.
And Joe, Allison on the comment line asked, is it true that 12 helicopters landed at the White House as a preparedness drill? I know I saw the video of the 12 helicopters, but is that why they were there?
Yes. They're evacuate. If any of you people have been to Washington lately and seen what Washington looks like, you don't see much video or news about what's going on in Washington.
No, they have a big structure they're building in front of the White House. What is that about?
It is Washington, D.C. has turned into a gated community.
Yes.
They're preparing for the worst. Notice how they're protecting themselves, right?
Yes.
They're building fences around every building in Washington and manning it with National Guard. I mean, it looks like a combat zone. It looks like I've been in countries where those capitals look just like that, and they were at war. So yes. Basically, the Washington crowd, the swamp, is preparing for war and to protect themselves. And yeah, they're going to evacuate. They're all heading for the big bunker. Yeah, there was an exercise. In fact, there's been 3 exercises on that, even to the point of having rental trucks. Of course, they're government trucks painted like rental trucks, preparing and training to evacuate the White House. Cowards. So anyway,
they are. And Joe, we all have to be prepared, obviously, and thank God we have the Washington Guard to help us prepare and give us tips and that type of thing. What I'm hearing, and I was just talking about this, you probably heard me before my laptop went out, is that 2 things. One is that we're not going to have unless we get it in the early vote, which is why we really have to encourage people to vote early. But unless we get it in the early vote, we may not know until towards the end of middle to end of December or of November who actually won, because some states like Arizona are claiming that it's going to take them 10 to 13 days to count their votes. I don't trust that. I don't think anyone else trusts it. Now, of course, we could win it in the early election. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get people to go out and vote. The second part of this is the video I was going to play from, General Mike Flynn is urging people, go out and vote now, because something could happen between now and then that won't give you the opportunity to vote.
Right. If there is an election.
That's right.
That conversation started at the White House about it. We might not know for days who won. They're buying time. They're going to do damage control. That's what that's about. You know,
Yes.
some people believe that. I don't believe that. I know for a fact all they're doing is biding time. Now, you know, either Harris wins or Trump wins, correct? Okay.
Correct.
Here's the problem with that. Trump's still facing some serious charges, and he's already been convicted once. Okay. If Harris wins, then it's a slow death because they're going to continue the same policies as Biden. There's going to be problems in this country. There's going to be civil unrest. We know that. So it's a continuous policies by the White House, the swamp, to continue what they've already done. You know, she's changed. She's turned around on everything, fracking and the fence and all. Total bullshit. They're not. It's just going to be the continuous now. So that's a slow death. If Donald Trump wins the election, according to the bookmakers in Vegas, he'll never see the White House. He'll never get back in the Oval Office because now they're going to bring up charges on him, convict him, incarcerate him, whatever that looks like, and will never succeed. Will never admit the fact that he won. And because of the one thing that they're holding back, and I've told several people, I said, you know, I haven't quite figured it out yet, but they haven't played, not using their trump card. Hard to say trump card, but yeah. So they're holding something back, and what they're holding back is the insurrection charges.
Yes.
That's what they're holding back. If Trump wins the election, they will null and void the election because of Trump being now charged with insurrection and incarcerated. Now, and people ask me, well, does that mean that Vance will become president if they take Donald out? No. You know why? If they disavow the legitimacy of the election because of that, they disavow their ticket.
Right.
So no, Vance will not advance into the presidency. The whole election will be null and void, and she will take office.
Yes.
And that's the fast death. And then it's going to hit the fan. I spoke with somebody short time back that's very, very close to Donald Trump when he's in the office. There's a lot of people working with Trump when he was president that y'all don't know about. Well, this guy is as close as anybody to Donald Trump. And he said, if they do that, your second theory on incarcerating him because of the insurrection charges that they haven't brought up yet, and they're going to convict him, not to mention the other ones.
Yeah, seditious conspiracy is allegedly one of the charges, which could be potentially even punishable by death.
Yeah, conspiracy, state of mind. That's great. No. So the gentleman very close to Donald Trump says to me, Colonel, if they disavow the election and incarcerate Trump and take the White House, it's not going to be a civil war. It's going to be a revolution. Because people know the only way to topple a totalitarian government, which is what we're facing right now, is revolution. There'll be a series of civil wars across this country involving the immigration, the economy, and they're going to crash the economy, by the way. So you better be out buying your gold and silver because it's going to take a wheelbarrow full of dollars to buy a pair of jeans before this is over. They've got to crash the economy, and they're going to do it.
They are going to do it. You know, Joe, I don't see, and by the way, Glenn commented, they still haven't sentenced him for the 37 felonies. Glenn, they're waiting to see if he wins. I really don't, I hate to say this, I don't believe they will ever allow him back in that White House. I don't care if that means they have to start a war, if they have to cheat the election, if they have to jail him and imprison him, if they have to assassinate him. They will never allow him back in that White House, certainly not for 4 years. And they're not going to let Vance in there either way. They're not going to let us disrupt their 30-year agenda. It's not going to happen. So the way I see it, Joe, is no matter what, there is going to be a revolution in this country.
Well, and just like I preached, the main objective here with the Washington Guard is to protect the community. But we also constantly pass on the message if for a time period, you're going to be on your own. Look at Israel. They disarm their citizens, and Hamas comes across, kills all those people, and all those people, whether it be for 10 minutes, 10 hours, 10 days, they're on their own. And that's what's going to happen right here in the United States. The only thing or the only salvation in this country is the fact that they haven't got the guns yet. And they're coming, and I tell you, they're coming after the guns.
Yes,
You're
they
going to
will.
get knocks on your doors by foreign troops saying you need to surrender your weapons. We're here to search. And here's all the records of all the guns you bought and your ammunition. They've got to. They cannot complete their agenda unless they get our guns. And
You are
they'll come here,
absolutely correct.
and, hopefully they'll come here first and I'll thin the herd and we won't have such a problem. So bring it.
Well, we can only hope and pray, right?
Yeah.
Joe, I think the first thing they're going to do, I think the easiest way for them is, and first of all, the polls, the media completely gaslighting Americans, because they're saying, then I talked about this on Monday, they're saying that, oh, the race is so close. The race is not close. Even Democrats, there's so many Democrats who don't even want Harris. The race is not close. There's going to be a lot of Democrats who are not voting. And so what I see happening is they're already gaslighting us, letting us think that the race is so close. So that way, when she takes when she takes the office, she takes the win. Maybe some part of the population will say, oh, well, the race was so close, which is how she won. But some of us, of course, the majority of us know that's a lie. The easiest way for them, the easiest route will be obviously to cheat, to give the win to her. But what's going to happen as soon as the very first thing they're going to do is they're going to take away our right for free speech. And that's exactly why I believe, now this is again my assumption, I don't know this as a fact. I believe that's why Elon Musk is putting out that petition for Americans to sign to protect your First and Second Amendment rights. And there are, hundreds of thousands of signatures, both Democrat and Republican, going into that petition, because the first thing they're going to do is ban platforms like X. They're going to ban shows like this. They're going to get rid of militias like you.
Yep.
And then they're going to come after our guns. And that these two things are going to happen first.
Yes, all across the board. They're going to shut down free speech. Elon Musk, I love that guy. He's like Trump. I mean, he has successful businessman, got it made. So did Donald Trump. And these great Americans have put all that aside to come forward and to help this country.
That's right.
These people are heroes. They're not traitors. And as far as these polls, a point off, a point here, a point off, 2 points, either half of America are either traitors or just plain stupid. And Harris is nothing more than a vessel for the swamp. I mean, if you're not smart enough to see through that, then get out of my way. I mean, these people are absolutely stupid. Anybody who knows the facts and not listen to the damn news and the propaganda, anybody who would vote for that woman is either crazy or a traitor.
Or in my opinion, disillusioned. People who are, I've run into so many people who say they're going to vote for Harris, and I ask why. And, and every answer they give me is the propaganda they hear on the news. Because, he's a Nazi, or he's going to take away their rights, he's going to destroy our country. It's all just propaganda. They're just brainwashed.
I tell my people, I said, I'm going to give you something. When somebody is arguing the fact that Donald Trump should be president or Kamala Harris, here's what you do. Forget all the fluff. You ask that person that says that they're going to vote for Harris, ask them this one question, and I made this up. There's a door, and behind that door sits Jinping, Rocket Man, and Putin. And on the outside of the door stands Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. And whoever goes in that door to sit down with these three superpowers, who would you send in to negotiate to prevent World War III? World War III is scenario. World War III, we're on the threshold of World War III. Would you send Harris? Now, they have to go in by themselves. Would you send Donald Trump in by himself? or would you send Harris in to prevent World War III? There's your answer.
That's right. That's right. I try to explain that too, also, Joe, to people, because, I can't talk too much about my canvassing, but I can tell you that I've talked to people in different circumstances. And some of the things that people tell me is that, I'm still going to vote for Donald Trump, but there's not always a but sometimes there's a but. And they'll say, well, he's unpredictable, or I don't know what he's going to do. He can't control himself. I'm like, but that is what makes him such a great president, because he is not predictable. So people like Kim Jong-un, they don't know how to relate to him. He's not going to stick by diplomacy. He's going to do what he's going to do. And I think that that little bit of unhinged is what keeps them in line. The same with Putin. I think Putin has a lot of respect for Donald Trump. And I think that's because Putin knows that Trump does not play by the rules. And that's exactly what we need. Diplomacy is out the door. It doesn't work. What we need is somebody who's willing to take action. And that is exactly what Donald Trump is. No, he's not predictable, but that's what keeps people worried and on their toes.
Scary thought, sending in Kamala Harris to prevent World War III on her own. That's ridiculous.
It would never happen.
How think about that? How ludicrous is that? And she'll have the codes. Why? This is how crazy this whole country's become. We're being torn apart from within. That was the communist, on the Marxist list. When the United States finally falls, and you have foreign troops invading from different directions to take their piece of the land, that's what this is all about. And these civil wars, the cartels, people have stopped talking about the cartels. The cartels have been funneling weapons into this country in masses since 2010, because the old intelligence report that when I was with Border Patrol, said that in interviews with certain people inside the cartel, they're preparing for a turf war in the United States between the cartels. That's called civil war. So that's another civil war, immigration civil war. When they start kicking those people out of the hotels and cutting off the paychecks, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to rise up, and there's millions of them, and they brought them here just for that reason. So now you got the people, the illegal aliens rising up like it did in France and England. You got the cartels fighting for turf. The economy crashes, and guess what? You're on your own for a time period. People, you better get ready. Join the Guard. For information for the Guard, you can go to our website, thewashingtonguard.com. If you want to email us for information or talk in private, which happens every day, it's patriots@thewashingtonguard.com. Tabitha, I'm gonna let you go. I've got the landscapers out here screwing my yard up, so I have to take care of it. I love you people. Tabitha, I'm glad you're back. You're safe. I was worried about you. Thank God for people like you. And God bless the Washington Guard and our law enforcement. I'm out of here. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Joe. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm going to close Joe out here, and we'll get back to things. And sorry for my crazy camera view. I'm actually, if you guys heard that noise a few minutes ago, my laptop mysteriously popped back on. And so I'm like leaning over a table, but it will be okay. At least I found a way to get back on. I don't know what's going on my laptop. I'm going to figure that out. But remember what Colonel Joe says, patriots@thewashingtonguard.com, because I'll tell you what, you've got to reach out to the Washington Guard. I know, trust me, I know there are people out there who are really scared and who really don't know what to do. And there are people, you probably feel like you're a sitting duck. You don't know what's going to happen. And I understand that there's a lot of people who feel exactly that way, and please reach out to the Washington Guard. If you have any questions for Colonel Joe Adams, he will be happy to answer them. If you have any questions for him, Joe's going to continue to come on to the show as long as he's available, as long as he has time. We'll continue to talk to him about preparedness. Some of the things I learned from my time on the road and talking to some of the people I talked to is when it comes to preparedness, obviously safety in numbers, which is why something like the Washington Guard comes in so handy. But also keep in mind, not everyone can join the Washington Guard. You may not be in a location where you're near the Washington Guard. You may have to fend for yourself. And a man that I talked to when I was out on the road, what he explained to me after Helene came through is that he and some neighbors of his, they formed a pact. And these are people he trusts, they are his neighbors, and they all decided to protect each other. And what they did is together, they formed almost like a militia, not with the technical term, but they each came up with a plan where if we have an emergency, this is our role. This is what each one of us are going to do. This is our job. So that way, when something happens, they all go into action and there's no confusion. It's written down. They all have a copy. They all know what they're doing. Collectively, they have started collecting water, different types of food. The thing we always have to remember is that we always say, non-perishable food, which is great. Freeze dried is better, which is why people buy the MREs and all of the other freeze dried items. You can get together as a community, as neighbors and purchase a freeze dryer. I know they're expensive. You can also, most neighborhoods or communities have an agriculture office you can contact, and they can sometimes put you in touch with a commercial company that has a freeze dryer, or sometimes they have a freeze dryer. I know that sounds crazy, but I found this to be true. And so there are ways you can access a freeze dryer where you bring in your own food items and they will freeze dry them for you. So that's something to think about. Propane, please make sure you have propane because you may have to cook outside. That's my go-to, is having propane, making sure I have propane. That way I can still use an outdoor oven. You can use propane for heat. There's a lot of different things you can use propane for, not just the big propane tanks. Consider that you may have to take the show on the road. Something may happen in your neighborhood where you have to leave. I mean, I feel like I'm fairly lucky. We've got several acres here. I have a well with very clean water. We have a stream out and back, several natural streams. And I understand not everyone has that possibility. So please make sure that you're prepared. There are so many different ways. And on Friday, I'm going to talk a little bit more about being prepared and getting a list together and some different things that you need to make sure you do on your own. If for some reason you're in an area and you cannot reach out to Colonel Joe Adams, if you cannot join Jason, charcoal or wood, propane doesn't work in cold weather. Uh, that's true. And I have like a little tent area set up for propane. But yes, charcoal and wood, absolutely so. Glenn says some generators use propane. Yeah, if you get and also some heaters do. These little heaters called My Buddy heaters, they use propane. So that's something to think about. Sometimes safer than using, gasoline. We're going to talk about that a little bit more on Friday. But in the meantime, my message again is going to be today and every day to get out and vote. Vote early, vote early. I can play that clip now from General Mike Flynn now that I'm using my cell phone here, and we'll hear a little bit about him. I have no way to do this without just doing it in front of you all, so I'm going to get this. I'm going to have to rewind it, and we're going to listen to what he has to
Right?
say.
Don't wait till
So
the
hold
election day
on and
because
bear with me for a second.
there's just too much that can happen, like a cyber event, right? I still believe that we are going to face between now, I think we have 10 days between now and the election. I think we're going to see some other sort of, I wouldn't call them black swans, but other events that are going to occur that people are going to go, what the hell? And you're going to hear a lot of disinformation, a lot of false information about, well, there's election fraud going on here, there's election fraud going on there. What I want you and your, certainly your audience to be mindful of are facts, things that are provable, not just some social media post that says they're cheating in this county, and there's 1,000 ballots that they just found on the back of a truck, filled out for Harris. I mean, whatever. We've got to be really, really smart about facts and making sure that when we say things about the election, we talk to the facts and we talk about what we know. I mean, there might be good people on the ground in those places and they may present something and you go, okay, that looks like it's real. But I think we're going to have to be even more using our discernment here in these coming.
The reason why he is talking about that is because, as you guys know, in the last election in 2020, everyone cheating, cheating, cheating. We had all of these different cheating accusations. Now, a good portion of those cheating accusations were 100% true. We know that there were people within the postal office that were basically operatives for Democrats. We know that's true. And several of them actually were arrested. We already know that the Harris campaign has set up shop right next to several post offices across the country. There's a lot of things that are going on that absolutely are true. We already know there are people going to the polls and their ballots are being flipped. They're voting for Trump. It comes out the other side of the machine and it says Harris. These are things to some degree we can prevent. We can prevent our ballots from flipping because you know what? You can just demand to stand there and watch your vote. You can do that. You can have a poll watcher do that. And I can guarantee you there are going to be poll watchers who are keeping a good eye on this type of thing. But where we have to worry about is there's a lot of areas, as an example, the city of St. Louis, there are certain polling locations where people just don't want to work. And you're not going to have a lot of Republican poll watchers at some of these locations. And trust me, Democrats know which locations you're not going to be able to keep an eye on things. And that's where we're going to see a lot of trouble. We know the post office is going to be involved because again, there were post office workers, again, who were manipulated and who did cheat for Democrats. It's going to happen again. No question about it. But we also have to know not everything is cheating. We really do have to be careful what is and is not factual. Because I know there's a lot of rumors, a lot of accusations out there, which made us seem a lot less credible. But again, to General Mike Flynn's point, get out and vote early. Because what if something happens, as we were talking about before Colonel Joe Adams joined us, what if something happens where you can't vote? That's a very good possibility that between now and then, something could happen. Something could happen to you personally, hopefully not in your own private life, but something could happen locally or nationally. You just don't know. It could be weather related. Look what's happening all across the country and all of these various disasters. We have wildfires taking place across the country. We have flooding still taking place in different parts of the country. Here in Missouri, we're going to have some massive, I think it's Missouri and Kansas, massive flooding in some areas expected over the next couple of days. So don't take, don't just think that everything's going to be fine and you go on election day. Please don't do that. And as you know, there are already several states reporting record early voting. And yes, some of those people are Democrats also, and that's okay. Let's all get out and vote. All of us get out, do your vote, do your part. If you can, it is not too late to register and train if you haven't already trained to work in your local polls. It is not too late. You can be the person that prevents fraud in some areas. So please do that. Outside of that, we were talking about Joe Biden and his comments earlier and what he thinks of us. It's really crazy to think that he called Trump supporters garbage, that's what he thinks about us. It is crazy. Let's see, catching up to comments. Someone has been setting drop boxes on fire. Yes, Washington and Oregon, that's true. And those are what's really strange about that, because at first I thought, well, that's crazy because that's a very liberal area. But in the areas where these drop boxes were, thankfully, in one drop box, there was only 3 ballots. They were able to reach those 3 people and have them vote again. And then in the other drop box, there were hundreds of ballots and they were burned and they don't know who most of these people are, which is really unfortunate because there's not really a lot of ways you can track whether or not your vote was within that box. Hopefully they're tracking those people down or people are coming forward. But in these 2 areas where these drop boxes were located, is actually a very heated race. It's really kind of an up in the air between Republicans and Democrats. So I think that's what happened because I know that, I'm not even going to say what I was going to say. Um, I was going to say things that we're not willing to do that maybe if we did do, we might win. But we're just not going to go there. Glenn, Republicans lose 1 to 2% of votes because something comes up on the day to vote. No question about it. And that happens all the time. Please go out and vote. There are certainly ways you can vote. We can't take a chance and losing someone who had a flat tire, or babysitting situations, or whatever, you don't feel well, whatever the situation may be. Because trust me, we need every single vote, every vote. I really even hope that people reach out to people in their communities and drive people to the polls. Do what you have to do to get those votes in. Talk to people, make sure that they're planning on going to the poll. And I get it. So many of us think our votes don't count. I've been one of those people for a very long time now. There's been times I didn't vote because I thought, well, your vote doesn't count anyway. But this time it does. You have to get out and you have to vote. No way around it. So please do that. Outside of that, I think we just really need to start getting ourselves in line for what's going to happen. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this tomorrow. When I have my laptop back up and running, I'm going to work on that today. What's going to happen on election day? What's going to happen after election day? A lot of things I think for us to think about. I do absolutely think things are going to happen. I think that they're never going to let Trump win. They're never going to let that happen. If for some reason we manage to beat them in this early ballot and they have no choice but to secede and say, okay, Trump, he won legitimately, fair and square, they're going to sentence him, just like Colonel Joe Adams said. They're never going to let it happen. And yes, Glenn, we absolutely want Trump to win the popular vote. No question about it. And we know how many registered voters there are in each county, in each area. And I think this year things are going to be a little different than what they were in prior elections. I think this time we know what to look for. We know how to combat some of the tricks that they used in the past election. So I think things are definitely going to be different. However, it still doesn't help the fact that they're never going to allow Trump back in the White House. It's just not going to happen. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I pray and hope I'm wrong. Lori, how can they say it's a close race? My question may seem simplistic, but I really don't know. Who are they polling? It doesn't appear it's that close. Lori, I don't know if you were here Monday or earlier today when I was talking about this a little bit, is that it's a lie. That's what it is. It's a lie. It's gaslighting. What they're doing is all of these, we all know that these media organizations are all owned by the same people. The polling is fake. Most of the time, it doesn't even matter at all. Polling is very subjective. Even the polls that come out in our favor, I don't believe any polls. However, it's gaslighting. And the reason why is because think about this. They're not talking to us because we know better. We know better. However, they're talking to the masses of people who trust the government still. And there are people who do, people who trust polling. There's a lot of people who do trust polling. And what they're doing is they're gaslighting us and telling us the race is so close. And I know this is what's happening because I know someone who works with the Harris campaign. They know Harris. They know all the people in her inner circle. And this person told me, and this is how I knew what was happening, is this guy told me, oh, it's a close race. It's a close race. It's a toss up between Harris and Trump. There is no way this guy would say that. This guy would say, he would be behind his candidate saying, she's going to win, blah, blah, blah. But he didn't say that. He said it's going to be a close race. And so therefore, I know what they want you and the masses to think is that it's so close. They are neck and neck. They're just thousands of votes apart, maybe hundreds of votes apart. That way, when they give the win to Harris, there will be a very large percentage of our American population who says, oh, it was close all along. Of course she won. It's sad we didn't get the votes in. Gosh, we missed it, by 10,000 votes. We missed it by 30,000 votes, whatever the number might be, but it was so close, but we just didn't do it. That's what they're counting on. When they give her the win, they want to make sure that uh, at least a percentage of Americans say, oh, okay, I get it. Instead of saying, oh my gosh, there's no way. Glesna, in our little burg, we voted Monday. Thank you for that, Glesna. 3 older ladies handed us our ballots and a marker. What is wrong with these people and their markers? I said no, and I used our black pens. Questioned them, and they said the problem of bleeding ink was fixed. You can't fix the problem of bleeding ink. You just can't. Please take your pens to the polls. Thank you, Glesna, for having the presence of mind to be able to have your own black pen. Please, people, take pens to the polls. I have heard so many stories already of poll workers handing out black markers. Don't use a black marker. I mean, and maybe it's okay. Maybe it's okay, but why take a chance? Do not take that chance. Please take your own pens. Please watch your ballots as they go through. If you're voting today, take your pen, watch your ballot, tell them that you want to make sure your vote didn't flip. And you know what? That's okay. You know, everyone gets it. We've got to pay attention to these things. No harm in that. Outside of that, guys, I don't really have a lot more to say today. I'm gonna work on my laptop, make sure everything's good. Obviously, a very short show today with all of my technical difficulties, but I wanted to make sure we had Colonel Joe Adams on. You know, he's such a valuable source of information, and please reach out to him at the Washington Guard, Patriots at thewashingtonguard.com, because he is a fantastic source of information. We're so privileged to have him here with us. I am very thankful for that. We're going to talk a lot more. I'm working on a guest that's going to talk to us about preparedness and what we might need to do to prepare in a certain type of situation, because I don't think any of us really know what's coming. I don't think we know. I think there's going to be a lot of different things that happen. And I think it's a lot like Joe Adams said, there's going to be different little skirmishes in different areas. Please try to make sure you're not part of that. And we want to keep the peace. We certainly don't condone or promote violence of any sort whatsoever. And I know it's hard because when they start taking away our First and Second Amendment rights, we're going to want to become violent. I totally get it. I'm one of those people, you know, like I said the other day, I feel my ancestors' DNA that was in the Revolutionary War. I get it, but we can't do that. We have to stay peaceful. We have to keep our cool. And then what we have to do is we have to aim our anger at the government, not at the people around us, not at the people in our community. So, but we do have to be prepared. We have to be prepared to defend ourselves, that's for sure. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that again in the coming days. I will be back tomorrow for a show. I will be back on Friday. And so we're going to have a lot to talk about. If there's anything you guys want to talk about, please, you can text me at the show line. It is 314-546-2677. If you like the show, share the show. Today might not be the best day to share outside of Colonel Joe Adams' part because we're so happy to have him. Man, I hate these technical difficulties, but it hasn't happened in a long time. It was bound to happen. Thank you, Karen, for joining me. Thank you all. I hope you all have a really great day, and I will see all of you again tomorrow.